So this is our first question. Our question is electrovalent compound is made up of, right? So electrovalent compounds are generally made up of electric charged particles or the atoms or the group of atoms, right? So option D will be right for this question. So the next question is electrovalent bond formation depends on, right? So when there is electrovalent bond forms, then the ionization energy of cation is important, and electron affinity of anion is important, and simultaneously lattice energy is also important. So we can say all the three above. So option D is right for this question. So the next question is the lattice energy of an ionic compound depends on, right? When we will talk about the lattice energy, then the lattice energy depends on the charges of the cations and anions and the distance between both. Right, so we can say that the charges and size both are important factor for the lattice energy of any ionic compounds, right? So option D will be right, like charge of the ion and size of the ion. So this is the question. The electronic structure of the four elements A, B, C, D and are given. Then they have asked that the tendency to form a electrovalent bond is largest. Right. So electrovalent bond means what? Like by sharing one electrons or two electrons, the octet will complete and the valency will be satisfied. Right. So as we'll see, it is completely filled. This is half, not half filled, not completely filled. Like it is 2p2, so it requires 4 more electron to complete octet. And we'll see for the third question, third option, here only one electron is required to complete its octet, so that it will form easily electrovalent bond. So there is more tendency to form a electrovalent bond in option C. So option C is right for this. So this is our next question. Which type of bond is present in H2S molecule? So we'll write for the configuration of sulfur, which is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p4. This is the configuration of sulfur. So it requires 2 more electrons to complete its octet, right? So that it forms 2 bond with hydrogen by sharing 2 electrons with sulfur. So it forms covalent bond. So option B is right for this. Question is, if the electron pair forming a bond between two atoms A and B is not in the center, then the bond is, right. So while forming any bond between two molecules like A and B, if they are forming, if there is electronegativity difference between both the molecules, so the more electronegative element will attract the electron cloud towards itself, so it gains delta negative and it gets delta positive. So now what happens, the electron cloud will not remain in its original place at all while forming the bond. So this cloud will shift towards B, right? So this makes that the bond is not in the center. So this type of bond is known as the polar bond. So option B is right for this. So this is the question. The question is, which of the following is not true about the sigma and the pi bond? So these are the options that we have to find out that which is not correct, right? So when we'll see the first option of option A, a sigma bond is weaker than the pi bond. This itself is an incorrect statement. So option A is right for this question. Rest all the options are correct about this pi and sigma comparison. So this is the question, like the strongest bond formed when the atomic orbitals. Strongest bond when forms when the atomic orbits overlap to a maximum extent. Like this is one orbit and another orbit is this. If this overlapping happens to a greater extent, like maximum overlap takes place at that time, the bond becomes more and more stronger. So option A is right for this question. So we have to find out the number of bonds in SO2 molecule, right? Sulfur is in the center, O, right? So and sulfur is having one lone pairs, right? So as we can find out, like 2 sigma, 2 pi, and one lone pair is present in it, right? So option C is right for this. So we have to find out the water bond angle in water molecule is nearly or directly bond of the water molecule, that we have to find out. So suppose water is H2O, right? So O is in the center and H here 1H, right? So it was expected that it should have 109 degree 28 minutes. But what happens because of the lone pairs and the by forming the MOT diagram by when H and H combines to form molecular orbit, at that time the bond angle which is observed, it is 104 degree 30 minutes. So option D is right for this question.